My wife cheated on me with the priest. Yes, with the priest. Him of all people. The guy who, in theory, was supposed to take care of our souls was taking care of something else. If you've ever been cheated on in some ridiculous situation, wait till you hear this one. And whether you're Catholic, evangelical, atheist, spiritualist, or just devoted to not being humiliated in public, stick around till the end, because besides my disaster, there are a few truths here that, if I'd heard them earlier, would have saved me a good few years of therapy. And I'll say this right now, if at any point you relate to this, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel The Hornless One, and come be part of this church here, which at least is honest. I've always been what you'd call a special occasion Catholic. The kind of guy who shows up more for weddings, baptisms, and Christmas than for Sunday Mass. My wife, on the other hand, was not like that at all. She was devout to the point of having a staff badge. Mass every weekend, prayer group, ministry work, novena, retreats. If there was a faith punch clock, she'd hit her target every month. It was because of her that I started going to church more. At first, I went kind of grudgingly, I'll admit. But over time, I even started to think it was nice. Calm environment, everyone knows each other, community vibe. And that's when the main character of this story came on stage, the priest. You know that young, charismatic priest everyone loves? That was this guy. Playful, cracking jokes, taking selfies with people, giving great homilies, counseling like a therapist. He sort of became a local celebrity. Some people looked more like fans of the priest than followers of God. My wife was one of those. She admired him a lot, and up to that point, fine. It's normal to like someone who helps you spiritually. The problem is when spiritually starts to include way too many things. In the beginning, I actually thought it was kind of cute how involved she was with her faith. She talked about him all the time, said he was an example, a man of God, someone enlightened. She started helping more at the parish, volunteering, joining every event that popped up. There was always something to go to. Meeting, course, gathering, rehearsal, formation. I, in my innocence, thought, better she's at church than out partying. My brain just hadn't updated to the current century yet, where the party might actually be happening inside the church. Over time, I started noticing a pattern. Almost every decision she made, she said she checked with the priest first. Work stuff, family stuff, even our arguments. I was turning into a background extra in the decisions of my own marriage. The priest gave advice, she obeyed. I gave my opinion, she reflected. Except she'd reflect with him, not with me. One day, I noticed something simple that got stuck in my head. My wife started dressing differently to go to church events. Nicer clothes, more expensive perfume, makeup she used to save for parties. I even joked in my head that her encounter with God now came with contouring and highlighter. She'd explained that she just liked to look good everywhere, that it was about self-love, about feeling good about herself. And again, if you take that one thing in isolation, it makes sense. The problem is the patterns. She was always busy with church activities. When I asked what she'd done, she always answered in these really vague ways. Meeting for this, prep for that, planning some event. The more I asked, the more generic it got. I started noticing that the priest's name was in everything. If she was sad, she'd talk to him. If she was confused, he'd given her advice. If we'd argued, he'd helped her understand my side. He was turning into a permanent third element in our marriage. I was the husband, but it felt like there was a spiritual supervisor reviewing everything. One day, she mentioned she was going to start a closer spiritual direction with him. Basically, more frequent one-on-one sessions to work on her spiritual life. Again, on paper, beautiful. In practice, I had no idea what was going on in those conversations. I only knew that every time she came back from those meetings, she'd get home with a different look in her eyes. It wasn't the look of someone who'd had an experience with God. It was the look of someone living something intense, but hidden. The first big warning sign came in a really stupid way. My wife, who was always complaining she had no time, suddenly had an incredible amount of availability whenever the priest called her for something. If it was for anything else, family, friends, even a night out for just the two of us, she was exhausted, no energy. But if it involved him, she found this almost supernatural extra boost. I started feeling bothered, but also guilty for feeling that way. It felt like I was jealous of God. And nobody wants to be the guy competing with God for attention, right? So I swallowed it and carried on. Until one day, one of those coincidences happened that you know is not a coincidence. I was leaving work a bit early and decided to stop by the church because she'd said she'd be there in a meeting till late. I thought I'd surprise her, bring a snack, say hi. I got there. The side gate was open, but the church itself was empty and dark. I asked around and nobody had seen any meeting going on. They said the priest was around somewhere in the parish center, in some rooms in the back. I walked back there. As I got closer, I heard voices. His voice and a woman's voice. Laughing, talking softly. The door was slightly open. And that was my classic movie moment. You know you shouldn't look, but if you don't, you'll go crazy wondering. It wasn't exactly a spiritual conversation. I couldn't hear every word, but the tone was way too intimate. Quiet laughs, those weird pauses of people who are standing too close. It wasn't the vibe of some heavy confession, it was something else. I froze at the door. I thought about pushing it open, barging in, making a scene, but for some reason I just took a few steps back, took a deep breath, and left. My brain went into this advanced denial mode. I started inventing excuses for what I'd heard. Could have been anyone, could have been some other situation, could have been me going crazy. That night at home, she came back with the same story as always. There had been a meeting, she was tired, lots to do, crazy busy. I looked at her and realized that for the first time, I didn't believe her. I really didn't. And that hurt more than any suspicion. After that, I started watching closely but quietly. I wasn't in jealous mode anymore, I was in investigation mode. Until she made the classic mistake of anyone who's messing up too much, she slipped. One day, her phone was blowing up with notifications on the table. She was in the shower. I never went through her phone on principle, but that day, with all that history, that phone looked like a fire alarm going off. I turned the phone just to see the name of whoever was messaging nonstop. It was him, the priest, message after message. The preview didn't show everything, but I could see some emojis that honestly didn't look very pastoral. I didn't open the chat right then. I didn't want to be the guy who invades everything, reads everything, and then gets called an intruder. I decided to wait for a better opportunity. She got out of the shower, saw the phone, froze for a second, then acted like nothing had happened. That tiny reaction gave away a lot. The actual confirmation came in such a ridiculous way that to this day, I laugh in anger. My wife, in the habit of telling me things as if I were a friend, started telling me that the priest was suffering a lot, going through a personal crisis, feeling needy, lonely, with no one to confide in. She talked about him with a different kind of affection, this over-the-top compassion, almost like she was defending someone she herself had helped get into trouble. One day she traveled with a church group to a retreat in another city. Everything organized by the parish. I couldn't go, work wouldn't allow it. In theory, nothing wrong. But during the trip, she texted me less than she usually did when she was just at home. And interestingly, the parish Instagram was very active. Pictures everywhere, lots of joy, lots of prayer. In one of those photos, I noticed something that would have gone totally unnoticed to anyone else, but not to me. In the background of a random shot, you could see him and her looking at each other in a way nobody looks at someone who's just spiritually important. It wasn't a group pose, wasn't friendly laughter. It was that look, the one you recognize a mile away if you've ever been in love. When she got back from the retreat, she came home with that sparkle in her eyes and a speech about feeling renewed. But it wasn't a neutral sparkle. It was the look of someone living a parallel story, someone in another world who only comes home to keep up appearances. It got to a point where I didn't want to just suspect anymore. I needed a fact. And the fact came in the form of an audio message. My wife had this habit of sending WhatsApp voice notes to all her friends, family, everyone. One day, an audio came to my phone that clearly wasn't meant for me.
Classic send it to the wrong contact mistake. When I hit play, it was her voice in a tone I'd never heard her use with me. Softer, lower, more intimate.
Funny thing is, in that moment, I didn't feel angry at the priest as such. I was angry at the man, because it wasn't the cassock that had betrayed me. It was the person wearing it, who chose to do what he did. And I felt a special kind of anger at myself for having kept quiet and silenced my own intuition for so long. I could have caused a huge scene, gone to the church, called the whole community, sued, filmed everything, posted it all online. But I chose another way. Silent dignity. I spoke to her calmly, played the audio, told her what I knew, what I'd seen, what I'd put together. She tried to deny it, twist it, play it down, said it was just an emotional confusion, that nothing major physically had happened, that it was this mix of spiritual and emotional involvement and whatever. But once someone's already hidden that much, any justification just sounds pathetic. I'm not going to pretend I was strong the whole time. It hurt like hell. This was the woman I loved and the man I respected, both stabbing me at the same time. It's like taking a bullet from the front and a knife in the back in the same second. But right there, in the eye of the storm, I had the realization that really opened my eyes. The responsibility for protecting my own sanity was mine. I'd spent way too long outsourcing my trust, idealizing people just because they wore a cassock, held a microphone, or walked around with a Bible. I forgot that, in the end, everyone there is human, with the same impulses, flaws, and ability to screw up as anyone else. I learned a few things I really want to drill into the head of whoever's watching this now. First, don't idealize anyone. Not your partner, not your friend, not your religious leader. Respecting is one thing, putting on a pedestal is another. The higher you place someone, the worse the crash when they fall. And usually, you're the one who ends up smashed. Second, spirituality is not a free pass to invade someone else's marriage. Faith-based closeness can easily become an excuse for dangerous emotional closeness. When you notice your partner is more open with their confessor than with you, switch on the warning lights. And it's not just priests, pastors, therapists, coaches, whoever. Third, intuition is not nothing. That discomfort you feel and shove under the rug is not just being dramatic. It's not always trauma. Sometimes it's your internal safety system warning you something's off. It's not about going around accusing people without proof, but it is about paying closer attention. Fourth, cheating doesn't start in bed. It starts in the look, in the oversharing, in the little secrets, in the don't tell your husband, in deleted messages, in weird hours, in calls they won't answer in front of you. Once those small boundaries are crossed and the person keeps going, the rest is just a matter of time. After everything, a lot of people expected me to become a God hater, to go around cursing religion, church, faith. But I understood pretty quickly that it wasn't God who betrayed me. It was two specific people with shaky character and bad choices. I didn't need to kill my faith, I needed to kill my naivete. If you're watching this, and you've got that feeling that something's wrong in your relationship, but you're scared of looking crazy, don't ignore it. I'm not saying you need to spy on your partner's phone 24/7, but you also don't need to gaslight yourself into thinking you're paranoid, just to keep some perfect couple image alive. And seriously, if this story gave you a jolt, do yourself a favor. Subscribe here to the channel The Hornless One, because here we take emotional chaos and turn it into a vaccine. Hit the like button, because that helps this video reach more people who feel like idiots
thinking they're the only ones going through something like this. My wife cheated on me with the priest. Today, I can laugh telling the story, but I remember exactly how much it hurt. The good part is that after this mess, I never again let anyone get between me and my own dignity. Not a priest, not a friend, not a crush, nobody. In the end, the person who most cannot betray you is yourself. And that's what I want to stick in your head when this video ends.